And here we go.
There's the deluge. Here's ignition.
Roger, roll, Atlantic. Doubling up.
Did it just do a Kerbal?
Back to the moon and beyond.
Put that in the big bag, Gino.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, that sure looks like a perfect flow.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
We did have an observation.
Equalize.
343 unfolds to go.
It's orange.
Water towers can fly!
Bingo! Right in the center.
Where's Jacklyn? There it is!
That was surreal.
That's not what we want to see.
No!
Oh my god.
Yikes. You bet. Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Where's Jacklyn? Well, it's on your screen right now. It's in the Atlantic Ocean and it's heading back to Port Canaveral, getting very, very close now. On board Jacklyn is Glenn Stage 1. Never tell me the odds, which for the second time just a few days ago on Sunday performed a flawless flight, delivering the second stage on its trajectory to its first parking orbit and then descending back towards the ocean. What the second stage then did, not so good, I think it's fair to say. The customer not happy at all with the orbit that they were delivered into, but I'm sure that's something we will be discussing as we watch this beautiful booster return back home to Port Canaveral. My name is Ryan Caton. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon as we watch this booster come back home. Alongside me, the other Ryan at NSF, Ryan Webber. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I get to watch New Glenn come back into port again. I was there in person the first time it came in. It was a little bit of a happier time to come in. But yeah, it kind of stinks. Well, I guess the main mission failed. But they at least get the booster back, right? At least the booster's back.
Yeah, it is a bit of a shame, considering this is only the vehicle's third flight. It is, as I said, this is something we will be talking about, and I'm sure chat will have many questions as well. So if you do, tag us at NASASpaceflight at NSF. In the field, we have Jerry, who will be, fingers crossed, giving us some special views as the booster gets a bit closer, but also is Dee, who has tracking assets, ready to see it, and is also on commentary with us right now. How you doing, Dee?
I am doing really well. It is a gorgeous day out here. The sun is out. It's a pleasant temperature, and we're here to see GS1 return into port. So, it's unfortunate the mission didn't go fully as planned, but like you said, the recovery of that first stage and moving into reusability so quick is a great thing for New Glenn.
Yeah, this is, as a reminder, the second time this booster has flown, and only the third flight of New Glenn ever. And I don't think there is another rocket which has entered reusability at such scale, at such a speed. New Shepard, but New Shepard is teeny weird. New Shepard can fit inside the fairing of New Glenn. It's not very comparable. But if you compare it to Falcon 9 or even Starship Super Heavy, there was no reusability in the early days of those programs. We're on Flight 3 and we're already landing a reflown booster, which is pretty impressive in my opinion. So
Yeah.
I think we should probably be talking about what has happened so far. Ryan, what's your take on what's happened so far? I mean, obviously great they got the booster back, but it's the New Glenn is designed to put payloads into orbit, and it did put a payload into orbit, but not the orbit they wanted.
Yeah, it seems like they had some kind of second stage issue during the second engine relight. We don't know entirely what happened. Blue's only made some, vague statements as companies usually do when things like this happen. they'll probably make a more detailed statement once their investigation is completed alongside the FAA, because this is a mishap. It is a mishap investigation they have to complete. The FAA has to sign off on findings to let them fly again. I know that in the past I know we've both seen Falcon 9 and even Starship get safety exemptions. I don't know if this one will get one because of it didn't exactly re-enter where it was supposed to, as far as we can tell, which means it's outside the safety zone, which means it's more of an uncontrolled re-entry per se. So that becomes a bit of a question whether or not I would get one of those safety exemptions, which means that you would have to complete the investigation, turn it in, and then be approved for flying again. So we'll probably hear more around that time, but one way or the other, Bluebird 7 mission was a failure. I kind of look at this for Blue as it's kind of like a Pyrrhic victory. You got the booster back. I mean, let's be honest. They reused a booster on the third flight. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty amazing to get into reuse that quickly. But as we were saying a little bit earlier, its primary mission is to put satellites into orbit and into the correct orbit, and it didn't do that. So I see here Dave Limp talking about a more complete review and everything like that. They, how they had the nominal booster recovery, but didn't do the mission for the customer. So they'll take a look at this. Hopefully it doesn't take too long, and we can get back. The new Glenn can get back to flying. Words. And we can see another new Glenn fly sooner rather than later.
Indeed. This is the first ever orbital class booster to be the first booster from that rocket family to land and then be reflown. The Falcon 9, first ever Falcon 9 that they landed, is on display in Hawthorne. It never flew again. And the first super heavy booster that SpaceX landed is in the Rocket Garden at Starbase. Never flew again, never will fly again. So that in itself is an accomplishment and, a nice little thing that Blue Origin can put on the mantelpiece that no one else will ever be able to take away from them because, well, you can only be the first at something once. And even though this might be the second operational launch vehicle to be partially reusable in the United States, it is the first to reuse the first ever booster they landed. They didn't put this on display. They refurbished it, looked through it, put a new set of engines on it, and sent it again. And that in itself is a statement of intent that they want to ramp up the cadence. Obviously, this investigation now for the second stage going wrong, you have to perform an investigation. They need the second stage to work. But that in itself, they want to drive up the cadence, and they need to drive up the cadence if they want to be a serious competitor and a serious component of the Artemis program, because Blue Origin's lunar lander, is launching on New Glenn. New Glenn is a critical component of the Artemis architecture, just as critical as Starship is. So it's really important that both SpaceX and Blue Origin can ramp up their cadence. And well, fingers crossed this investigation goes smoothly for Blue Origin and New Glenn. So we are keeping track of the booster as it gets ever closer to the port. And it is a very pretty booster indeed. And D, I think you're just spying it through the trees there.
Yeah, so I'm set up to be able to quickly move to another place in port once the booster passes by here. And so I don't have the perfectly clear view quite yet, but we've got a gap in the trees here where we can see New Glenn just sort of passing through. And of course, we will have much more close-up views and exciting views from Jerry to come here in just a bit.
Indeed. This booster is always a pleasure to see come back into port because, it's always great to see Falcon 9s come back into port, but we've seen a few Falcon 9s come into port at this time by now, so it's nice to have a little bit of variation, If you're going to go plane spotting at an airport, you don't want to see 737s coming in every now and then. No offense, Ryan, but you don't want to see 737s coming in every single landing. You want to see a bit of variety, and it's nice to see a bit of variety with Falcon 9 in New Glenn. Also, this booster is the largest ever booster to be recovered through a downrange drone ship kind of format. New Glenn Stage 1 is 57.5 meters tall, which is 15 meters taller than Falcon, and it is, of course, much wider. It's double the diameter. So it's a lot more volume and a lot more mass coming down and landing on the drone ship here. And it's a very pretty booster as well. So we have plenty of questions coming in. Do keep them coming. Tag us in chat at NASASpaceflight or at NSF. First of all, that diabetic kid is asking, do you have any guesses as to how long New Glenn will be in the port? Should be in Florida Monday, and wondering if it will still be visible from anywhere. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Monday might not be soon enough. They'll probably have it horizontal. I can't remember how long it took them to go horizontal last time, but Monday is probably a bit too far out, to be honest. They'll probably be able to get it level in maybe under 48 hours, because I know last time they took it off the boat pretty quickly after arriving back, but as you can see there on the right hand side, that's the jig they use at port to move the booster from vertical to horizontal. Any thoughts, Ryan?
It as far as I remember, it didn't take him too long to do it the last time. It looks like they'll have to reset the pushers again, because they're still up. For those you can see, if you see a bunch of lines on the top of the inner stage for New Glenn there, the stage pushers are still up. Which, I mean, of course, this is only the second time we've seen it, but I don't know if those are supposed to reset or not. I'm pretty sure they're supposed to reset, so I don't know. They'll have to look into that if they are. So they'll have to reset those, get the cap on, get it onto the jig, and then go horizontal with it. It shouldn't take them too long. I would think within two days, something along those lines. I have to go back and look to see how long it took last time. But either way, it'll look cool. You'll probably see the LPV-1. I'm trying to remember the exact name, but yeah, landing platform 1. You'll probably still see that. I don't know if you'll still catch it at port. There's another booster coming in, another drone ship. You might catch that one, but that booster might be gone as well. But you'll see that drone ship for the last time. But I mean, yeah. Either way, it shouldn't take them too long to get it out of the port.
What is breaking? Did Jay Keegan press the wrong button?
I don't know.
I think Jay Keegan pressed the wrong button. Jay Keegan meant to press probably the fade button, but instead he pressed the breaking news button. Jay Keegan producing today's stream, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, by the way. There you go. He was just making his presence known. This is another great question, which I've seen in comments both on X and on YouTube, and this is actually something I want to talk about. Tinsel is asking, sorry, but I disagree. They changed the engines. It is not the same booster. It is not reusable if you have to change that much. Right? Question mark? In which case, Booster 14 was not the first Super Heavy that SpaceX reused, because it didn't feature any reused engines.
No, I'm pretty sure they definitely had reused Raptors on that one. Same thing with 15. Yeah, I'm almost certain they did. I think it was a portion of the engines that were reused, and I think 15 had a larger portion of Raptors reused. They also did fly. I would think it was pretty sure they did fly a newer, because remember Raptor 314 made its rounds.
Maybe I'm remembering incorrectly, because I know there was a booster where everyone thought, or there was speculation on Twitter that they had reused an engine, but they didn't actually reuse an engine, and then the Pi Raptor was reused. But I thought maybe I'm misremembering Booster 13 for Booster 14.
Also, to answer the question, no, the tankage is the same Reusing a booster is reusing a booster. That's another cycle for this booster. That's what I classify it as. So I would ask this question then: what if an aircraft has both of its engine changed after a heavy check, and then it flies again? Are you reusing that aircraft? Yes, you absolutely are. You're putting more cycles on that aircraft. The airframe is listed by cycles, and I look at rockets the same way. When you fly a rocket, you put a cycle on it or a flight. This has 2 cycles on it. Falcon 9 boosters are the same way. You may change out all of Merlin's, but it's still the same booster. It's got different engines, sure, but just because it has different engines doesn't mean you didn't reuse it. That's no. It's a reused booster, 100%.
And I've also seen some misconceptions online that people are saying that Falcon 9 doesn't change its engines. Well, Falcon 9 does change its engines. It's just SpaceX doesn't document it. You know, we're very fortunate that Dave Limp, CEO of Blue Origin, responded to Max on X, because it was our own Max Evans who asked on social media, have you got new engines or are you reusing the engines? And Dave Limp replied to us and said, we're actually got a new set of engines for this flight, but the previous BE4s will be reflown at some point in the future. So that's a really, nice bit of transparency there. It's just, for your everyday Starlink Falcon 9 launch, SpaceX doesn't actually communicate that much about it anymore. So yeah, Merlins are absolutely changed out. Raptors are changed out. BE4s are changed out. That's how reusable rocketry works. The space shuttle, more refurbishable than reusable, I think it's safe to say, also had RS-25s that were changed out. If you want to reuse a spacecraft, engines are going to be switched out at some point. The exact same way if you want to reuse an aircraft.
And other parts too.
Yes, like there are parts have lifespans, and they are going to have to be replaced at some point if you want to keep reusing something. But the overall structure of the booster will remain the same, just like here, as Ryan was saying. The tankage is exactly the same, interstage the same, TPS the same, all of that.
Like for an aircraft, you can replace a ton of different components on that aircraft. The airframe itself is still the same. Even repairing that airframe or having to, say, replace an entire horizontal stab because of damage, it's still, for by and large, the same airframe. And then you look at Falcon 9. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they've gone in and replaced an interstage here and there, replaced grid fins, replaced landing legs, replaced other major components inside those boosters. It's still the same tankage. It's still more or less the same booster. You're just replacing older parts, and the same will go for Super Heavy, and the same will go for New Glenn. They may have to replace a strake on it, or replace one of their fins in the future, or they may have to replace an interstage. The tankage and the rest of the booster is still the same. It's still in by and large the same booster. It's just you're replacing parts. Until you chuck away the main tankage, I still call it reusing and replacing parts.
Mm-hmm. And we have new live views. I said that Jerry was on site for us, and the drone is up. We are getting closer to New Glenn as it gets closer to port. There we go. Jerry zooming in there on Jacklyn, Harvey Stone, and Glenn Stage 1. Never tell me the odds. Very, very cool shots as always. I'm always fascinated by the wonderful turquoise color of the ocean in Florida, because the ocean is a very different color in this part of the world where I'm from. It's usually more of a murky brown that you don't really want to spend any time in whatsoever.
But just off of the North Sea, give or take?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have been getting some support, so I should run through that quickly. Flipper79 McGregor, great to see you in chat. Thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Shazbert, thank you for your support. Glenny is back. Yes, she is. Space Pope, Great to see you in chat as always. Reused Glenn, space blessings to you all. What a nice day. It is a wonderful day. Dee was saying earlier how nice the day. Is the weather still nice, Dee? I mean, it's been 20 minutes. I doubt it's changed that much. How's the weather?
The weather is absolutely spectacular out here. You know, there is a nice breeze coming in from the ocean, but it is really perfect. And I'd say it's the right amount of clouds in the sky. I mean, you can see it on screen just there. It's like there are clouds up there. You've got some cool contrast in the lighting, but it's not a cloudy day.
And thank you to Brain Controller for gifting 10 Red Team memberships. That seems to have filled enough time that the drone is getting closer to Jacklyn and Harvey Stone and GS1. And I should just say, Jerry is a licensed drone pilot. He knows what he's doing. Flying a drone over Port Canaveral is prohibited without prior written approval from the Canaveral Port Authority. Special permission has been granted, allowing this flight to be safely conducted. Look at that. And that's a very, very scorchy deck.
Kind of like leads a little bit into the I see a question, the smoky landing question there.
Oh yeah, let's bring that up. Jen Gates Photo is asking, why does New Glenn have such a smoky landing burn when landing on the drone ship compared to Falcon 9?
It's got a decent. The engines on there are a bit more powerful than Falcon 9. I think it's kind of, as you can see, kind of eating up the deck and other things, which is kind of generating a lot more smoke and dust than, say, a Falcon 9 landing does. Also, depending on which drone ship Falcon 9 is landing on, it actually has a water deluge on it, or at least a little bit of water on it, although not anymore. But but either way, you can see how scorched that deck is. New Glenn's a little bit more powerful of a rocket. That's kind of basically it. Like if you saw how much smoke and steam comes out even from just the super heavy landing burn, and that's only 3 Raptors and it's high up in the air, hitting down into that deluge. Yeah, that's what happens when you have a more powerful engine, so you have a higher exhaust thrust pressure, and you're generating a lot more, or you're damaging things a little bit more. So it's kind of basically what it is.
And there you go, you can see Launch Complex 36 in the background, where this booster took off from just 3 days ago on Sunday morning, and now it is returning to port on board Jacklyn. So wonderful to get these up-close views of the deck, especially because, you know, we see the Falcon 9 drone ships. They get a little bit brown and orange after they've seen a few flights. Sometimes they get, refurbed with a nice fresh coat of paint, but at least the Blue Origin have positioned the lettering of Jacklyn on a part of the ship which does not appear to have been scorched at all. There we go. It's in a nice clean part of the vessel there.
And we've got smaller Blue Origin vessels out here as well in the port, making sure the area is clear for this return.
Yes, Blue has their own smaller vessels, which kind of, on launch day, they're out and about, making sure there's nobody that isn't in the range that shouldn't be there. And of course, when the booster is coming back, they are escorting, providing an entourage as the booster comes back into port. Under tow by Harvey Stone, which is their support ship for towing Jacklyn to and from the landing zone there. Plenty of communications equipment on board both ships. You can never have enough satellite connectivity. Let's see here.
It's always funny when it kind of looks like Starlink terminals. Well, wait for them to start getting not Kuiper, Amazon Leo terminals. That's right. That's the name. Kuiper was so much better.
Yeah. Long live Kuiper. Master Quack is asking, if it fell into the water, would it be a Glenny fish?
Well,
I hope
don't
not.
want it to fall in.
No. Along those same lines, Average Richard is asking, did they use pyro spikes into the deck again? I can't actually remember. I'm not sure if they showed that live.
I'm pretty sure they still use that. I don't think they've
Yeah.
had the. I don't think they have the solve yet for um, going out with a robot and hooking up to it like SpaceX does with the Octograbber. But eventually they'll come up with a more reusable, easier way to grab the booster. But you have to remember is an Octograbber grabbing Falcon 9 is one thing, an Octograbber trying to come out and grab this thing and hold it steady is another. It's a decently big, Falcon 9's first stage is like 47 meters tall and 3.7 meters wide. This is 8 meters wide and like 50, what is it again? It's 57 meters tall, give or take.
Yeah, 57.5 meters tall.
Like that's a significantly bigger booster to have to stabilize for for sea operations and coming back. So Blue Origin they'll come up with something. It's not like it's impossible to do, but a couple more times to land and trying to figure out how to do it, they'll come up with something. I'd be curious to see what they come up with.
Indeed, and of course, if you're not previously aware, what we're talking about is on the end of each of the 6 landing legs. Instead of having a robot like SpaceX that comes out and physically grapples onto the aft end of the booster to secure it in place, Blue Origin has employed pyrotechnics in the end of each of those legs and essentially welds the booster to the deck of the ship to secure it to the ship. So should a wave hit it in the wrong direction or a gust of wind hit it in the wrong direction, it doesn't attempt a immediate reflight, I think is how I'll word that. And there you go, you can see very clearly there in the background the transporter erector still vertical at the pad where this booster took off from just a few hours ago, a few days ago, double-digit hours ago. Is it double digits? No, it's triple digits by this point.
Yeah, I think so.
But there you go. Very, very pretty booster. And you can even see there, from the drone, the lettering, never tell me the odds, just above that aft module there of the booster. It's also a great opportunity to see the pushers at the top of the booster there in the interstage, which is used to separate the 2 stages, Glenn Stage 1 and Glenn Stage 2, as the second stage goes off and achieves orbit, while the booster returns back to the pad.
She does
to the
not
drone
look,
ship, I should say.
She does not look like she's done 2 flights.
No, not at all. And this is part of the methane fuel that is used compared to the kerosene. That kerosene produces a lot of soot, which builds up over time, as we see on Falcon 9. Even Super Heavy, which is, that's also methalox. It kind of builds up that scorchy kind of discoloration on the forward end with the interaction with the ship's exhaust. But this booster looks really clean. It does hot stage. It's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But still.
I'm curious to see what the Block 3 will look like. The aft end should look a lot better this time around with the newer heat shielding that it has on the Block 3 boosters. And then the forward will still probably get discolored because it's hot staging still. But New Glenn looks nice. That thermal protection system they have on there is doing its job. And I mean, the paint on the booster looks almost untouched. I think it was last time there were only like a few points at which it looked like the paint was damaged. This time there's even less. Or at least it's kind of hard to tell, but I really don't see any area where you could even tell that this thing flew to space and back twice. Like, it's impressive. We'll go with that.
Indeed. And plenty of people watching on there from the jetty definitely come to see the booster come back and not go fishing. Or maybe both.
There is a really good mix of people out here fishing, just enjoying their day living by a beach, and a good mix of people here specifically to see a rocket return. It's a mix of the space fans who know exactly what they're looking at, all the different types of rockets, and people who just knew that there's a rocket coming into port today. So that's pretty exciting to have that mix of people and have, as more rockets come online, more of the general public is getting re-interested in spaceflight, whether they know all the nitty-gritty details or whether they just want to see a rocket and that's all they know.
Still great to see so many people coming out either way. And D, I'll be honest, I was actually pretty surprised by the amount of people who came out to Cocoa Beach to watch the launch, considering it was, 6 o'clock in the morning. Not exactly the most accessible time of day for a rocket launch on a Sunday. But still, there was a load of people that came out to watch this in person.
There were, I mean, the beach really filled up with people.
Yeah, really, really cool. Back on board with the drone as New Glenn Stage 1, serial number 2, never tell me the odds, returns to Port Canaveral under tow from support ship Harvey Stone and plenty of the Blue Origin security vessels following them as well, those fast boats. As you can see there, one of them, there you go, one on the left, one on the right. Approaching 1 o'clock in the afternoon, local time in Florida. Returning the booster for New Glenn's third flight. We have a question here from ResistoJet asking, why do you think they elected to change all the engines rather than at least reuse one or two? That's a good question. More of a speculative question, Ryan, but what do you think? What could be some of the reasons why they chose to not reuse the engines, all of the engines, and do a complete new set?
I think they had newer upgraded BE4s and they wanted to test them out. And maybe they'll upgrade the older engines, or maybe those aren't going to get reused at all. Because you have to remember this program is still well in its infancy. It's the third flight, so they're making changes. They're upgrading engines, upgrading boosters. I actually am genuinely curious how many times this booster will get reused overall. Considering they're probably making changes to the booster itself as they refine, probably gets rid of some dry mass here and there, that kind of stuff. So I think it's mainly because, they had newer BE4s and they wanted to test a more powerful version or an upgraded version per se. It's kind of why they didn't reuse any of them.
And just like Raptor, they're going to find things that they can improve upon all the time. BE4 is going to need a lot of improvements, and it is going to get a lot of improvements because, of course, this is not the final evolution of New Glenn. It's going to get even bigger, going to get even taller, going to be able to lift even more mass into space with the 9x4 variant, adding 2 engines to both stages with 9 BE4s on the first stage, 4 engines on the upper stage, and making the stages bigger in the process. I mean, this is already a big rocket, and it's going to be getting even bigger, launching from the Cape here, which is going to be really, really cool to see. Oh, we've got a really, really interesting question here from Sard, asking if Blue Moon Mark 1 was on this mission instead, would it have been able to compensate? I think this raises some really interesting questions because, the point. I think we should probably start off by clarifying what exactly went wrong with this mission, because New Glenn did deliver the satellite into orbit. The satellite was delivered to a orbit, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't delivered to the orbit that the customer wanted, and the customer wanted a specific inclination with specific apogee, specific perigee, etc. Right?
Yeah, and it was a little low, so it didn't last very long either.
Mm-hmm.
If Blue Moon had done this mission, the BE7 on board likely would have likely had the power to get itself into an orbit. But to get itself to the moon and land it, no. It would have needed. I think it would have probably would have needed that second burn from a successful second burn from that second stage in order to get it towards the moon. So you remember, it's got to do a TLI. Like, I'm pretty sure the lander on its own. I wonder if it had been able to do a TLI on its own. I don't know the full Delta V of the Blue Moon Mark 1 lander, depending on the orbit that it's in. But actually capturing on the moon and then landing on the moon, that's a whole different story. You need a significant amount of you need a decent amount of Delta V to pull that off. And if your second stage misses one of the biggest burns, which it did, it messed up on its second burn, that I kind of doubt Blue Moon would have been able to recover for the mission that it was in. So if Blue Moon Mark 1 was just to go into low Earth orbit, yeah, it probably could have recovered that and been stuck in Earth orbit. But to get to the moon and land, no. I kind of doubt that.
And that is the orbital police himself, Jonathan McDowell, reporting a couple of days ago the orbit dataset from the Space Force. Essentially, third-party measurements of where that satellite is, and it was catalogued in a 265 by 485 kilometer by 43 degree inclination orbit. So they did manage to change some of the inclination, but as David said, whatever caused the engine to stop producing thrust, we don't know, but something caused the engine to stop producing thrust, or a severe reduction in thrust. I can't remember exactly what he said, but either way, the upper stage stopped working as it was meant to work, meaning they couldn't deliver the satellite into the orbit which the customer required. And AST Space Mobile saying that they don't have the performance with their on-orbit thrusters, their Hall effect thrusters, to position themselves into the orbit they need, so they are purposefully deorbiting the satellite because it is not in an orbit which they deem acceptable, and therefore doing a wonderful little insurance request on that one, as they said to the press.
While Hall effect thrusters are incredibly efficient, they don't have a lot of thrust. So when you have a decent amount of mass in a satellite, you can use a Hall effect thruster to change orbits to boost yourself back up. You can do that if you have the margins to do it. And from what the company said, the Bluebird 7 did not have the margins to be able to recover itself. So because you need to perform really, really, really long burns with those in order to have like significant like inclination changes. Like those have to go for a while. They can make the Delta V. It just takes a while to do it, depending on how much fuel and whatnot you've got on board for that Hall effect thruster.
Yeah. I will just say as well, if you are just joining us and you have any questions or comments, feel free to tag us in chat at NASASpaceflight or at NSF, and that brings it into a nice organised queue for us, and we can bring them on screen and do our best at answering them. It's always wonderful to get all of your questions and comments. You don't have to do a super chat or anything, literally just put it in a normal chat at NSF and we'll bring it on the screen. We have Observer127 asking, how long will it take to reprocess the booster? That's another great question, because of course this is a reflown booster. This is the second time it's coming back into port. The last time it came back into port was about 6 months ago, in November, halfway through November. So how long, Ryan, do you think it'll take them this time around? We've got to consider that there's an investigation as well, but I would assume Blue Origin are going to want to speed up the process. 6 months, maybe shave a month or two off of that as they push for a higher cadence.
Yeah, I would assume that. And this would probably fly on probably NG5. I would assume they have a new booster for the next mission at this rate, because considering the refurb time. It's kind of a big open-ended question on how long it would take him to do it, because you have to remember that the last 6 months, but the refurb of this booster was the first time they've ever refurbed a new Glenn. So, of course, when you do a rocket for the first time, you learn things about it. Learn what engines you might have to replace, other things you have to look at, where you do more extensive inspections to see how the entire booster fared under those conditions, to understand what you need to look at from going forward, how long the booster might actually be able to fly for, how many missions. So they'll probably be able to shave some time off of it. I don't really know how long it'll take them. It could be only a couple of months. This thing could be ready to fly again in summer. Could be June, July, probably July at the earliest, maybe. I know they really want to step up their cadence, because that's kind of the big thing alongside, getting for Artemis. They need to have a high cadence of New Glenn in order to launch their lander and refuel it. As you remember, they got to refuel their lander too, which means they need to launch a lot of New Glenns to do that. Not only Starship. Starship's not the only one that has to launch a lot of tanker missions. So they need a high cadence for this, and they'll figure it out.
I do have faith that Blue will be able to sort through the problems, because what they've pulled off already is really impressive. And, there's people who, and, there's some validity to what they're saying. There's people who will say SpaceX did this 10 years ago. Why is this interesting at all? Well, the key part of this, in my opinion, is that this is a much bigger booster landing at sea, and it's another company who have done this entirely independently. This is a completely independent booster, software, vehicle, team. Like, of course, there's some cross-hiring, which might have gone on, people being poached from here, there, and everywhere, but this is another company which has developed this capability all by itself, and we can only have a space economy if there is competition. Because if SpaceX is the only launch provider, they can set whatever price they like, and as long as it's cheaper than ULA, they're going to get all the contracts, right? You need some competition from these new space companies, and Blue Origin is right now the closest company at being able to provide that competition, because the other companies, then they haven't launched yet, let alone into reusability, and even at that, the only other vehicle which is really comparable is Terran R. Neutron, Nova, they're all much smaller compared to this scale of rockets. So it's really exciting. We can only have that space economy if there is competition, and you can only have competition if there's multiple companies providing a similar service, if that makes sense. So New Glenn Stage 1, Never Tell Me the Odds, is approaching the entrance to the jetty here, entering the entrance to Port Canaveral. But even though it's getting to this point, there's still a little ways to go as it gets to their dock further into port. So we are going to continue following the booster as it approaches its dock in Port Canaveral. Thankfully for us, it's basically at the other end of the port, so we get to follow it all the way through, both on our Cape cams, like this one you're seeing now live. Jerry's, of course, got the drone up, and we have our trusty old fleet cam, which has been there for God knows how many years now, watching the SpaceX fleet and then the Blue Origin fleet. Fleet cam, the OG NSF livestream camera, has been there forever and is still going strong. It is as far as I know, fleet cam at Rusty's is the OG fleet cam, which is still running on the 22nd of April 2026. OG fleet cam is still running, still providing us live views of the fleet, which is really, really wonderful.
Fleet's only going to get bigger. Eventually, that camera will capture possibly boosters and ships coming over from Starbase. On a drone ship that Fleet Cam has seen many a times too. So SpaceX dropped that bombshell of information on a in the middle of a midnight stream, like middle of the night stream too. Like Jesus, but yeah, it's gonna see a lot. It's gonna see a lot of New Glenn boosters come in. It'll probably see another New Glenn drone ship. I wouldn't be that surprised. as they ramp up their cadence, and as we see that they plan on building a second pad there. There's some filings for another launch tower and lightning tower just north of 36, which it's either I think the filing, and this will probably make you hate it, Ryan. The filing said 36B/11.
Yep.
LC 36B/11. So there you go. They're counting for both pads, even though there never really was a 36B, at least not in that location. So but here we are. So that'll be fun. That might be for 9X4. The Blue Origin 9-engine BE4, 4-engine second stage. And then, of course, seeing as we talk about starships coming back or getting transported in, and then of course Falcon 9 will always be that one that's just kind of there. Although, we're going to see less and less Falcon 9s coming into the port now. It's going to be weird because one less drone ship. It's odd that decided to do that.
In case you missed it, SpaceX announced literally in the middle of the night with the GPS-3 Space Vehicle 10 live webcast that just read the instructions. Not the OG drone ship, but the successor to the OG drone ship, because there are actually two just read the instructions. But the current just read the instructions is being retired from Falcon 9 service, and it's being converted from being, this really cool autonomous spaceport drone ship to a transport barge. Which, if I've just spent the last few years supporting over 100 Falcon 9 landings and then I'm suddenly downgraded to be a transport barge, I'd probably be seeking employment elsewhere. Just read the instructions is being taken from the Falcon 9 fleet and being added alongside You'll Thank Me Later, which is SpaceX's current transport barge for Starship hardware. So far, it's only been used to move kind of GSE tanks around. At least what we've seen it moving, but that is going to be supporting the horizontal transport of starships and super heavy boosters.
Yeah, and currently you'll thank me later. Ooh, that's a nice shot. Is in Marmac 31 is currently in port, and then they of course just reading section is Marmac 303 if I remember correctly. Marmac 303 is a little bit bigger, so they might be able to put a booster and a ship on. They might be able to do two vehicles because the Marmac 31 isn't as wide. So that's kind of why they're using it for tanks now. It's long, but it isn't as wide, so they're going to need a lot of horizontal tanks. And I'll say again, this is a really nice pan up. It looks like it hasn't flown.
That's a tilt. That's a tilt.
Sorry, tilt up. Sorry, Jack's gonna get mad at me.
I'll get mad at you too.
Okay,
yeah, I was going to say, this is Dee's live camera, so, I mean, like you were saying, and I agree, this is really, really clean, but if you just look on the left-hand side here, there's a little bit of muck. But, I mean, compared to a Falcon 9, this is basically brand new. Falcon 9's, the kerosene deposits the soot, but the Methalox power of the BE4s really doing the booster a lot of favours. Maybe not the deck of the drone ship a lot of favours, but the booster a lot of favours.
She looks good. That booster.
Indeed. And the paint is still there.
It is. Yeah, you can see a little bit there. You can see a little bit of I don't know what to call it. Could be scorch marks, could be deposits or just general wear. You can kind of see it on some of the paint there, but that's about it.
It really does feel, and I know this is going to be a really obvious thing to say, but it really does feel like an entirely different just sheer size of booster compared to Falcon 9, because we've seen Falcon 9 come in so many times into Port Canaveral, but this just looks so pretty. And the mental image of a Falcon 9 coming into port is now ingrained in the brains of the entire spaceflight community. So seeing a Blue Origin New Glenn booster come in is it's like, wait, I've seen this before. Hang on, no, I haven't. This is different. This is bigger. It gives you a minute. And look at this super zoomed view on the aft end of the aft module. And you can see there the booster. I think we can see some engine bell. I think that is a BE4 engine bell
I think so.
under the thermal protection there. Just peeking through. Of course, the engines on New Glenn are shrouded. And, compared to, Falcon 9 and Super Heavy, where they are more exposed. But you can just see there a BE4 engine bell peeking under the booster. You can also see there's not a lot of ground clearance on this booster either. Oh, you can see all the way through the booster there. Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah, those landing legs look nice. The engines look, you can see kind of the bells. Just the aft of that booster looks really, really nice. I guess I'm a sucker for really nice looking engine compartments of boosters. I was trying to find a way to word that didn't sound weird.
But I mean, even the tracking shot we had of this booster as it came back through, kind of the doing the dogleg maneuver through the atmosphere over towards Jacklyn, we saw it do what Super Heavy does, and the aft section was glowing orange. Like, the friction was making the aft section glow orange. We didn't see that. At least I don't think we saw that on the first flight of this booster, but we did see it on the second flight. So I don't know if that meant they were coming in a little bit faster, or maybe the lighting conditions were just, obviously middle of the day afternoon launch compared to a very early morning launch. Maybe that allowed us to actually see the glowing. I'm not sure what the correct term is, but there was friction causing an orange glow from the aft end of New Glenn.
Yeah, it's cool to see that just from the friction of reentry. I can't wait to see. Again, I can't wait to see what Block 3 booster looks like with the changes to its the aft heat shield and the aft of the vehicle. And I can't wait to see it on other rockets too. Like, there's a couple of other rockets that are going to do the same thing. Stoke and Relativity and Neutron. Although, if Neutron's glowing, I don't know if that'd be a good thing. I don't really know what heat shielding they have under their carbon composites. But I don't know if glowing would be necessarily a good thing. So I'd be curious to see what they're doing to mitigate that kind of stuff. Whenever it flies, that is. I don't know when it's supposed to, at this rate. I don't even know if it's flying this year. But either way, I will say it is always awesome to see more companies going to reusability. Everyone always goes and bashes the expendable rockets, but I gotta say, as someone who we're only 22 days removed from the Artemis 2 launch. As much as all of SLS was expended, it was still really awesome to watch. It's still an awesome rocket. I mean, as much as it's not reusable, but it was still awesome. So, expendable rockets can still look cool, but seeing a booster come back in is I think it's cooler, because it's just like, yeah, that flew to space and back.
That is flight proven hardware right there, standing proud on Jacklyn, making its way back to port. And compared to the ginormous cruise ship in the background, there's not really many things on the sea which can rival the size of those huge cruise ships. But this booster, at least in terms of height, is one of them. It's certainly a sizable object compared to the mini boats in comparison to that cruise ship.
I think it would be hilarious to see a Block 3 or even a Block 4 super heavy on its side next to one of those cruise ships. Like, I know the 9-meter wide thing, I mean, it's a little bit wider than New Glenn here, New Glenn's main tankage. But the Block 3 version is like 72 meters, and the Block 4 is like 80 long. Like, that's a gigantic booster. It'd still be pretty big even next to a cruise ship. That's a huge booster. I can't wait
Yeah.
to see 9X4 next, rolling back into port. That's like even taller.
Yeah, I mean, the booster is getting taller. The aft section is getting wider because it has to compensate for more engines. Uh, this is going to be even bigger. And yeah, if you thought this was a big booster landing at sea,
Yeah.
9x4 is going to be, almost an entire another step. If you think Falcon 9 up to New Glenn 7x2 is a step up, 7x2 to 9x4 is going to be another step up because of the sheer scale of this rocket. And we need more big rockets. We all love a big rocket. Big rockets get big attention, and
Bigger is
there's
better.
big fun. So it's well and truly entered the past the jetty and into Port Canaveral now. Still being towed by Harvey Stone, the support ship, and the blue security boats trailing behind as well, making sure that nobody gets too close to their very expensive spaceflight hardware. Probably don't want anyone taking any naughty pictures either. But we do have the drone up. Jerry is on the drone. Well, he's not on the drone. He's piloting the drone.
That would be
remotely, of course. Yeah, I'm not sure if the drone would be able to lift Jerry. Would probably hinder performance quite significantly. But Jerry is our professional drone pilot and has obtained permission for this flight because flying a drone over Port Canaveral is prohibited without prior written approval from the Canaveral Port Authority. Special permission has been granted, allowing this flight to be safely conducted around New Glenn as it enters Port Canaveral. Getting a bit of help from some of the tugs as well, maybe pushing it more to the middle of the channel. Let's see here. If you do have any questions for us, do tag us in chat at NASASpaceflight or at NSF. Don't have to do a super chat or anything, just put it in chat and we'll bring it into the queue. One of those questions is from October Sky, who is asking, does Blue Origin have any more drone ships in production? If they do, they haven't told us about it, but they're definitely going to need a second one at least, because the Space Force has kind of approved them to start looking at developing a new pad at the Vandenberg Space Force Base in California, and that's a long way away from Florida. So even if this vessel could fit through the Panama Canal, it would need a few days to get there, and it's not exactly fast turnaround capable if you're having to move it coast to coast for every launch.
It should be able to go through the Panama Canal without an issue. It doesn't have the stick out thrusters. Because I know when they moved, of course I Still Love You, I think they had to dismantle the thrusters or at least take them off, and I'm trying to remember how they transported that. I can't remember if they towed it through or they lifted it up on another ship and brought it in. And brought it over through the Panama Canal, but I think this thing should be thin enough to go through the locks on its own. So yeah, I don't know if Jacklyn would ever move. I kind of doubt it. I bet they would keep this one here and they would build another one. It's not that hard to get another Marmac 300 series barge and make it into a drone ship. I mean, they're the second company to do that with a Marmac 300 series. Basically, it turns out it's a pretty good barge to use for this. So, I wouldn't be surprised if they make another one.
And it's worked twice in a row, and hopefully will work for many more flights into the future. So it's a good platform to build off of. Quite literally, they've called it Landing Platform Vessel 1.
Blue in their naming.
I know, right?
Like what was it? What did Dave Limp called it when they were it was like upending the vehicle?
Yeah,
or something
upending,
like that.
downending.
I don't know. I don't know about that one, Blue Origin. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, I think the names are silly, but credit where credit is due. They do pick a name and stick to it. They don't pick one name, change it 2 years later, and then change it 2 years later again, and then change it for a fourth and final time before changing it for a fifth time, like SpaceX does.
MCT, ITS, BFR, and then Starship. I mean, they did stick with Starship once they got there. So
Yeah.
but it is funny. Just the naming things is Starship is the whole system, and then the ship is the ship part of Starship, and the Super Heavy's the booster. It's just weird. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah. Zooming in on the base of the booster here and the deck of Jacklyn, which, if you're just joining us, this booster flew on Sunday. This was flying through the sky to space and back on Sunday morning, and it is now returning to port. And it did make a nice soft touchdown, did scorch the deck a little bit, but everything held, and she's almost back home now. The final stretch of her journey back to port, and we're now through the channel, heading towards the dock where Never Tell Me the Odds will be offloaded from LPV-1 Jacklyn. This is a view from one of our fleet cams. We actually have two fleet cams now. We have the new fleet cam, which is this one, and the OG fleet cam, which is still running after all of these years at Rusty's Seafood and Oyster Bar. And we are very grateful to them for allowing us to, or hosting us with these live views for all of these years. And there you go. You can see on the right-hand side just how much of an impact, I will say, those BE4s have made to the deck of Jacklyn. And remember, by the time the booster is hovering over Jacklyn, you know, the booster goes way off Jacklyn to begin with and then hovers into place and translates into place. This is all done with a single BE4 engine. They only ever run one BE4 engine when it is overhead Jacklyn. So that's a lot of brown and orange and scorch being produced by a single BE4.
I don't know what the thrust is at it, because they might have upgraded the thrust of these, but the original thrust numbers out of BE4 were 550,000 pounds of thrust. Or it kind of was around what a Raptor 2 could do, a little bit more, which was 230 tons. But it's a powerful engine. I mean, we've seen what a singular Raptor can do. I wouldn't be surprised if the singular BE4 can do, but just about the same. It's a closed cycle engine, so it's not like it's that full flow stage combustion cycle of a Raptor, but it's still a LOX-rich closed cycle. So it's a pretty advanced engine. It's a good engine. I mean, it is. It's been reliable. In all of its launches, the Vulcan launches and the three new Glenn launches, that I have not seen a single issue with the BE4 in flight, which I got to say, that is probably something Blue Origin can really take to the bank on that one. They've made a reliable engine in flight, which is not something easy to do. Just ask SpaceX. They have had their fair share of issues with Raptor, but that is a really big plus out of this program, is how well BE4 has performed. And it's only going to get better as they fly it, as they get flight data out of it. They'll refine it. They'll probably get it more. They'll definitely make it more powerful. A lot of people always make the jokes about comparing all the sense lines and sensors on BE4 to Raptor. But you have to remember, Raptor has a decent amount of flight heritage under its belt, and Blue Origin is still just starting to get all that between Vulcan and New Glenn. They'll start eliminating a lot of that as they go forward. It'll look better and better as they go on, as they don't need any more sensors in certain places and stuff like that. So, but either way, it's nice to see an engine doing well, especially one that advanced. And finally, we have a LOX-rich closed cycle stage combustion engine for the US that's flying reliably. It's the first one, because, I mean, technically Raptor is, but it's also not, because it's full flow stage combustion. So it's kind of, well, it is, but it isn't, kind of thing. So
we have another question from Gwen Ever. They are asking, were any of the fairings recovered? This is a great question, because we did see out at the recovery zone was Go America, which is a support ship which Blue has 2023, so just under 3 years ago now, they did perform some sea trials, kind of practicing fishing a fairing out of the sea using a practice New Glenn fairing. We saw that on Fleet Cam return to port. We don't really know what's happened, whether they caught anything or not. It departed from Fort Lauderdale and has gone back to port there. So it hasn't come to Port Canaveral, and Fleet Cam's for Port Canaveral. So if it did catch anything, it's in South Florida. But I would imagine if they did catch something, they would take it to Port Canaveral and not Fort Lauderdale all the way, It's a little ways away to truck a New Glenn fairing all the way from there when they could have sailed directly to Port Canaveral with the booster. We have the Country Cooks. They are asking, when a satellite company files an insurance claim for a loss, does the insurance company go after the launch provider to recoup costs? I don't know. I would guess not. And I would assume that it's the insurance company that pays out. Because that's how insurance companies work.
Yeah, it should be. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if Blue did something. I mean, it is their rocket that had the failure. That's why insurance exists for a reason, for this stuff in case a failure does happen. But I'm pretty sure, yeah. It's kind of funny. You think of how much money a rocket insurance company would need, or satellite insurance company would need in order to recoup losses of a lost sat, considering how expensive satellites are. Depending on which sat it is, what kind of satellite it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is a true point. But on the other hand, if you have regular SpaceX transporter missions with 150 satellites on board, and you insure every single one of those satellites, that's probably a lot of income they're getting from some highly successful missions. So, fortunately, there are many more successful missions nowadays than unsuccessful missions, which probably helps to balance out the amount of money going in and out of those companies.
It's also worth keeping in mind that these rates will be dependent on how proven a vehicle is, but that's both the insurance rates and the amount that satellite companies will have to pay to launch on any given rocket.
Exactly.
Like a good driving record gets you better insurance rates.
Yeah.
A good rocket record should probably get you better rates, kind of thing.
I mean, on a similar note, the previous mission for this booster was Escapade, and NASA, they only had to pay 20 odd million for that launch. And I can assure you, I don't know exactly how much that launch cost, but it was much more than $20 million. NASA got a great deal on that. And, the risk was that they were flying on the second flight of New Glenn. But fortunately enough, that mission went off as planned, and those two satellites are either still on their way or heading towards the Lagrange point, where they'll be hanging out until the next Mars transfer window opens, when they will then head out to the Red Planet.
What's funny is New Glenn has demonstrated all the harder parts of orbit. They've done an interplanetary mission, they've done high Earth orbit, and they've caught and they've landed a booster twice, but they couldn't get to Leo.
Yeah, the most accessible orbit is where they have fell. It's like the shortest possible hurdle is the hurdle they have tripped over, and that is rather funny to think about.
It is funny.
If you are just joining us, we are watching the New Glenn Stage 1, Serial Number 2, Never Tell Me the Odds, return to Port Canaveral after its successful part of the Bluebird 7 mission. The upper stage, not so successful, but the first stage, at least, very successful. The first ever reflight of New Glenn, the first ever double, or the fastest ever maiden reflight of a booster. Nobody else has ever launched the first ever booster they landed. SpaceX with the Falcon 9, they put their first one on display. SpaceX was Super Heavy. It's at the Rocket Garden in Starbase and will never fly. So that is something that no one will ever be able to take away from Blue Origin, and that's a pretty cool accomplishment. It is, of course, being transported back to Port Canaveral on the recovery ship landing platform Vessel 1 Jacklyn. Where is Jacklyn, you ask? It's on your screen right now. It is in Port Canaveral. And if you want to know where Jacklyn is at all times, we have some merchandise which can help with that, because NSF has teamed up with the Daily Hopper, Twitter famous for the wonderful illustrations they always do. And we have a new design available at shop.nasaspaceflight.com on the shirts, on the hoodies, and on a mug as well, I believe. And there you go. We have the first stage saying, "Where is Jacklyn?" And then on the reverse, we are treated to where Jacklyn is, and there it is. There's Jacklyn. Found it. It's on the t-shirt. So there you go. Wonderful collaboration between NSF and the Daily Hopper there for this new collection at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. We've got it in the full shirt and the emblem shirt and the hoodie and the mug and the emblem hoodie as well. There you go. Nice variation depending on which design you prefer, or which sizing you prefer, I should say. Available now at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. I will say, even though I did provide this phrase to NSF, I still am yet to receive one of these shirts. Store team, just saying. Just saying. Was that too obvious?
No, it was good.
Looks like we're going to zoom in. I believe Gav is tracking this, is on this camera right now. Zooming in on one of those support vessels, one of those fast boats that Blue use to provide security services, make sure nobody gets a bit too close to their multi-million-dollar orbital class launch vehicle, which is currently rolling into port, or sailing into port, I should say. As we approach 1:30 in the afternoon, local time. A little bit of a photo bomb with SpaceX's vessels in the background there. It looks like one of the Signet Warhorse tugs they use, and Doug as well, one of their support ships, docked at port.
Is there a Falcon 9 booster at the port right now? I have not. I don't keep up too much with the Port Canaveral. I'm so busy with keeping up with Starbase. It's hard to keep up 100% with everything that goes on as a Cape too.
There is not right now, but you know. Have you not heard, Ryan? They're slowing down the cadence. They're taking away a drone ship.
That is true. That according to Jake Keegan, they don't launch anymore. Which, I mean, yeah, I mention again for those who are just joining us, or for those who haven't heard, is just read the instructions. Will no longer be used for Falcon 9 ops. It's not in the port right now. It is currently coming back with the booster from the GPS mission that it did, 2 nights ago? Right.
Yeah, overnight on Monday through to Tuesday morning.
It should be back into port relatively soon. Probably had to wait for Glenn to come in since it was ahead of it. So I don't know when it's due back into port. I haven't looked, but either way, when that comes back into port, that'll be the last time we see just reading instructions holding a Falcon 9 booster. The next booster it holds will be, I don't know what number, but it'll be a Block 3 Super Heavy. Likely, because as Kiko had on X basically said, yep, it's going to be for transport ops for Starship. So SpaceX, who's basically gone down to a single pad at the Cape for Falcon 9 operations, because 39A is fitted for Falcon Heavy, and they've been focusing on getting that Starship pad online. They've got one pad and one drone ship. And so, you know, if they want to do constant drone ship landings, that'll be every 4 days or so. I can't wait to see how high of a cadence Blue Origin can get with their pad if they could do it every 4 days. I don't know. Maybe 4 or 5 days. But they're not there yet. They'll get to there with their cadence. They have a lot of tanker flights set up for lander missions, plus lots of Amazon Leo flights to get to, and even other customer payloads. So they definitely have a lot of flights on the docket to get to.
see there, beautiful framing of the American flag in front and the American flag in back as New Glenn returns to Port Canaveral, very carefully, slowly, making its way back into port, moving at a really staggering rate of 2.5 knots.
That's fast. It's real fast.
We should have a race between Jacklyn being towed into port and the Crawler Transporter and see who wins.
Ooh. I think Jacklyn's going to win that one.
Well, when they're not carrying a fully fueled solid rocket boosters and big core stage and a big ICPS and Orion spacecraft with a mobile launcher on top, Crawler Transporter, can pick up some pace and get a good jog on.
Yeah.
We have another question here. Observer127 is asking, I presume Lloyd's of London would be the insurance provider, or are there others? I don't actually know if we know the specific insurance provider for this mission, but Lloyd's would certainly be has certainly provided insurance to satellites before, considering they provided the first satellite insurance back in the 1960s. So there are a number of companies which do provide insurance. I'm not sure if AST Space Mobile would even want to say.
Probably they wouldn't say which company it is. Usually, I don't think that's usually ever announced for failures of missions or whatever. So, yeah.
We are now watching on with one of our fleet cams, now with D, who is once again zooming in. Now D has relocated, by the way. D picked up and moved closer to the port dock, and we are once again seeing those live views of the engine bell of one of the BE4 engines, one of the 7 engines New Glenn flies with for its booster. I think we can even see 2 more through this little entrance here. Oh, it's blocked by one of the things they tie the rope in. You know what I'm trying to say. I don't know what the official term... Gav is going to hate me for this. I don't know what the official term is, but it's one of the rope things which is blocking it right now. There you go. You can see 2 BE4 engines there. 2, or just the tips of the engine bells, rather. But, I mean, they look good from what we can see. They don't look deformed or anything like that. They look in good shape. And here we go. OG Fleet Cam, after all these years, is still watching on. And this time, it is the first ever reflight of New Glenn Stage 1. Never tell me the odds. Returning to Port Canaveral. That's something we don't have to do for Falcon 9 very often. We've had to zoom out and tilt up. I almost did it. Zoom out and tilt up to see the entire booster come into frame. Look at that.
Yeah, the first time this booster came into this port, there were 2 Falcon 9s that were vertical over there. It was a really, really cool way to really show how big New Glenn was compared to Falcon 9. And to see that in person was really, really cool. But right now there's no Falcon 9s there. It's kind of weird not seeing a Falcon 9 in the port.
Well, hopefully the one that's currently at sea will be returning. So I'm going to look on marine traffic and see where it actually is right now. It's quite far out to sea. it's got a little ways to come. It says the reported time of arrival to Port Canaveral will be tomorrow afternoon. So we'll have to wait and see if they make time or not.
Hope it's during the daylight to see that drone ship one last time.
Well, we'll see it again, just without a Falcon 9 on top.
I mean, that's true. And without all of its machinery, because that's all going to get stripped off.
Yeah. No more need for an octograbber. Maybe a Starship grabber? I don't know. But there you go. You can see Harvey Stone getting a bit of help from some other tugs in port to maneuver Jacklyn into place. They will go a little bit more further this direction. As you can see, they're now kind of making a turn into one of the docks there, and then they will push Jacklyn up to the side and rotate it in. You can see there, definitely got some rotation going on with help from those tugs on the other side of the landing platform vessel number 1.
It's just our Rusties.
In the background, that is, of course,
Yeah.
where the OG Fleet Cam has been for many years at this point. Big thank you to Rusties for hosting us there over all these years.
Good food too. Yeah.
I haven't actually ever eaten there. That's still on my bucket list. I've been, but I have not eaten at Rusty's.
The fried mac and cheese balls and the local fish. It's good. Yeah, definitely good.
Another sneaky look at the engine bells of the BE4s. Bit of humans for scale as well, compared to the enormous size of this booster.
Looks like part of the booster transporter is they're getting it set up over there. Crane's lifting the looks like one of the half rings for it.
Enhance. Yeah, and you can see the truck. The truck is there as well.
Mm-hmm.
That will, of course, be rolled back to Blue Origin's campus at Exploration Park, which, if you've ever visited the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex, that is right next door. The huge facilities you see with the Blue Origin logos, that is Exploration Park, and that is where all of these vehicles are manufactured inside the factories there.
It's a huge campus.
Yeah, it is truly massive. That's where their launch and mission control centers are as well for Blue Origin. I'm going to run through some more questions here. We have Rabonini, who is asking, whatever happened to New Armstrong? That's a great question. I think there's an argument that maybe New Armstrong is New Glenn 9x4, or maybe New Armstrong will be something even bigger in many years from now, but we haven't really heard anything about it for forever. Feels like it's been a very long time.
I wonder if it's a upgrade, some upgraded New Glenn, or unless it's something new. We don't really know. Blue Origin hasn't really said what New Armstrong is these days. At least not. I haven't heard anything publicly, for that matter, on what it is. Eventually, they may give us a hint as to what it is, or maybe New Armstrong doesn't exist anymore, and it's just like it may be the 9x4 or something else, New Glenn. But yeah, don't really know, to be honest.
We have got some support. What were you going to say?
I was say, I think in the background there, you see a tank. I think it's a tank hooked up to a crane. I think Gav is saying that's the Marmac 31, or you'll thank me later, barge.
I did see that coming in a few days ago with 3 tanks on board, so it's probably the looks like maybe the final one of those getting ready to be lifted. But we have got some support. First of all, Anonymous getting the Where's Jacklyn mug. Welcome back, GS1 number 2. Great job, team. Let's do it again. And Ezra Rock, thank you for becoming a Red Team member. Not only will you get access to the pictures from Artemis, but I'm hearing some rumors in the rumor mill that there could be some pictures of this booster, potentially, maybe. So I guess the only way to find out is to wait and see what comes up. Just saying.
Looks like a water tank. I think that's one of the deluge tanks, probably for 37.
It's always wonderful seeing the various hardware come in and trying to guess where it's going to, because we saw some hardware coming in. We originally thought maybe it's for Relativity, and then it's like, well, actually, we've seen it being installed at Blue Origin's launch pad at Launch Complex 36. So, yeah, always a fun guessing game to see where everything will end up. Although in that particular use case, considering it's coming on a SpaceX owned vessel,
Yeah.
I think it's pretty safe to say who that tank is for.
Yeah, it looks like one of the larger water tanks used for the bucket deluge. So for their deluge distance for their new pad design is what it looks like.
So now they have kind of done that 45-degree rotation. We can see some of the tugs moving about there. They're probably going to be pushing it laterally sideways from this perspective pretty soon, unless they need to do that 180-degree turn. I can't remember if they do that 180-degree turn.
I think they did it last time.
Yeah, but the complete guess, but the booster is a slightly different orientation this time around to last time. Last time the strakes were kind of side on from this perspective. This time, or you know what I'm trying to like that. It's basically 90 degrees rotated. That's what I'm trying to say. This time compared to the previous flight, so we're seeing the edge of the strakes this time. The last time, after New Glenn 2, we were seeing the full strakage of the booster from Fleet Cam here. So it will be interesting to see if they need to do that rotation or not. But they are positioning on that side, the tugs of the vessel. So it looks like a rotation is about to take place. So we'll get a full technically 180 of the booster and get some wonderful views of the booster as well. Speaking of wonderful views. Well, while we had them. Yeah, that spin now starting. .180-degree spin for Jacklyn to position itself into port. We have a question here from Joshua, who's asking, how is Blue planning on launching their lunar lander? It's going to be launching on New Glenn. This rocket, well, maybe this rocket, depends how long they keep flying this rocket for. But there's this type of rocket, guaranteed, maybe even this booster, is going to be launching Blue Moon Mark 1 no earlier than the end of the summer, according to Blue Origin.
Wouldn't that be funny if it was the third reflight of this? Second reflight, third launch, right? Of this booster to launch their Blue Moon Mark 1. That'd be kind of cool.
I do hope that maybe they put something a little bit less important on their return to flight, just in case. maybe some Amazon Leo satellites, or maybe Firefly's Electromission 1. Just depends what's ready to go, because we're not really 100% sure what will be ready to go next. But they have plenty of missions in the schedule for this year.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if a return to flight is New Glenn's first Amazon Leo launch. Because basically it's your own satellites, kind of like SpaceX with their own Starlinks. You know, if for some reason the payload's lost, it's not having to recoup it on insurance. It's your own. So.
Looks like they paused the rotation there, but it looks like they might be starting it again. Yeah.
Oh, although I was just thinking, yeah, it looks like I was just thinking, you know, maybe they try for their higher energy orbits rather than a low Earth orbit, because, you know, New Glenn can do, you know, the high Earth orbits or interplanetary missions easy. It's demonstrated that it hasn't been able to do a low Earth orbit, at least not low Earth orbit only. I don't know. I thought it was kind of funny, but whatever. Someone yelling at us in the back channel there? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna move on. It's so awesome to see these views
It is.
when the HDMI cable works. We have 98 Central who's asking, what's the benefit of having multiple Starlink terminals such as Jacklyn has? Well, should one not work, then you have a backup, I suppose. And you can have more connectivity, more better, as Jack would probably say.
Like, yeah, why not have many? You know, why not?
I'd rather have more internet than less internet, so... And, you know, this
Yeah.
is... Starlink provides a reliable service, so just because it's made by a competitor, I wouldn't say that's a reason to not install it, you know? It's if it provides a great service, it's going to benefit you, whether it's made by yourself or not. Of course, you know, if they were Amazon Leo terminals, they'd probably be getting them at a very, very steep discount. But, you know, Starlink Maritime is a pretty good service and is very proven, both in this use case and also in a more consumer-friendly use case with, you know, private boats and even on cruise ships providing internet.
I mean, like, just to show the companies using or helping each other out or using each other's stuff. I mean, SpaceX launches Amazon Leo sats. They've done a few missions, and they're going to do more. SpaceX doesn't really care about the competition part that Amazon's trying to copy them on. That it's money, and it's another launch. They don't really care that it's that. They launch Viasat. They launch Amazon Leo. They launch a lot of competitors for space-based internet. They launch a lot of them. They don't really care. And the funny thing is if it actually boosted more launches for New Glenn, if they wanted the cadence high enough, like, and they had the pads, they had the rockets. I don't know if Blue Origin would ever launch a Starlink mission. Not that they need to. That's the thing. Is the problem is a lot of the Starlinks are already up there. So you don't really need another rocket to do it. The biggest thing for Starlink going forward is they need to switch to Starship for the higher bandwidth sats, and well, New Glenn can't launch those sats. So at least not in that config because it's the PES config on Starship. So, but yeah.
I mean, even on a similar note, we've seen Falcon 9 launch Amazon Leo satellites. This mission of New Glenn launched an AST Space Mobile satellite, which is designed to provide direct-to-device connectivity, which is something that Amazon Leo has literally just acquired Globalstar within the last few days to provide. You know, they are making their own direct-to-device network, and they were trying to launch a competitor satellite. Maybe this was all intentional. Oh, conspiracy theory time. No, definitely not. But yeah.
A launch is a launch for a launch company, really.
Yep.
So that's kind of how, and I think Blue Origin looks at it the same way. The more launches they can get on New Glenn, the better. They have a large docket under them already, but the more launches they can get for it, the better. It's more money for Blue Origin. It's more launches for New Glenn to learn New Glenn more. And then same thing with SpaceX is for Falcon 9. It was just more money and more launches for them. There's not a lot of competitor launches that are going to happen on Starship because Starship has so many different launches already under its docket. It's got tens of thousands of launches ready to go on it once they finally get it operational. But you know, for a launch company, who cares if you're launching a satellite for a competitor or something?
I think Jake Egan was trying to point out the Starlink dish there, but the camera is moving and the telestration is not. So A+, there we go. Oh, okay, we had it for a frame. A+ for effort, Jake Egan, producing today. Nearly got it. Okay, maybe fifth time the charm. Here we go. Let's just pause everything. Let's draw a new circle. There we go. There's a Starlink dish on Jacklyn.
Yeah. Boats move.
Fun fact: it's not stationary. when you're coming into port. But yeah, one of a number of Starlink terminals in use. Shazbert, thank you for your support. They say they have a buddy who works with Blue Origin. He says they are all in on New Glenn and there's no new Armstrong in the pipeline. Interesting. I wonder if that's the same as how they were all in on New Shepard. Too soon?
I don't know. Maybe.
Kal, the last son of Krypton, is saying, I don't know why they didn't add solid rocket boosters. I guess it's just going to go up slowly all the time. That's what I'm worried about, how quickly it gets off the mark and then into orbit. SRBs would kind of defeat the purpose of a reusable rocket.
Yeah.
Or at least in the time frames that Blue Origin wants to reuse the rockets. And, I mean, thrust to weight certainly is on the lower end, but it still works. You don't have to have a ridiculous thrust to weight off the pad just to get into orbit. Because again, they've gotten to orbit that, boy, they're kicking up a lot of muck in port. But you don't need a ridiculous thrust to weight ratio to get into orbit. Blue Origin have gotten to orbit 3 times in a row. The third one just happened to be an orbit which the customer didn't need and is completely useless to them, according to the customer. But they have gotten to orbit 3 times in a row. With the lower thrust to weight.
The third orbit just wasn't the correct orbit. But even though they got into orbit, I still classify it as a total mission failure. But I know there are people who might argue against that, but that's how I see it as. SRBs are not great, especially for anything reusable, because even when that plume expands, like SRB exhaust is not great for boosters and not only that, reusable like GSC launch hardware. Like for anyone who's seen ML1 after launch, they spray the entire mobile launcher down. For ULA, they also spray down their launchers as well, because the corrosive exhaust off of a solid rocket booster fuel is not great for anything. You have to wash it off, and that's not very conducive to reusable architecture, like at all. And then on top of that, it'll get off the pad faster. It will. They'll upgrade the boosters. They'll upgrade the engines. They'll get more thrust out of them. They'll figure it out. And again, as you were saying, they made it to orbit. They completed their mission twice and failed the other time. This failure was not due to the first stage. It was due to the second stage. So it was not because they couldn't get off the pad quick enough. So it's not really an issue.
I think I figured out the reason why they paused. They were detaching Harvey Stone, that vessel in the bottom left of this picture. That was towing Jacklyn back into port, but that's done its job, and they are now going to be using the tugs to position the landing platform vessel number 1 into position. So they are doing that 180-degree rotation before pushing Jacklyn up against the dock there.
I have a question.
To allow offloading. What's your question, Ryan?
If they need to rotate it, why don't they just pull it from the other side?
Well, it doesn't have you can see there the lines are on that side, Ryan. They're not on the other side.
Yes, but why don't you set it up to pull it from the other side? If you have to rotate it every time, that seems like a massive inefficiency, and you should just pull it from the other side.
Well,
it's just a barge. It's not like it actually has a bow and a stern.
Well, when it goes back out to support the next launch, then it will be backwards. So you'll have to turn it around then.
I don't know how
they're rotating it now, so that the next time they need to pull it out, they can exit port in the same direction. They don't need to do a rotation.
I guess. I don't know. Just seems like an inefficiency, but whatever.
Harvey Stone reversing out of shot there after completing its job towing Jacklyn out to the landing zone and back to Port Canaveral.
Or you could pull it from both from both ends of the beam, from both ends of it. It's a barge. It's not like it has a bow and a stern. It doesn't have like it has a bulbous bow or stern with a rudder and screws. It doesn't have that. It's just a barge. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. It's not like it's an aircraft carrier or a battleship or something, or a cruise ship. Maybe that's just me.
Continuing to rotate before being translated to the dock, where GS1 SN2, never tell me the odds, will be offloaded, placed on its jig, and then, and I quote, I'm quoting here, down-ended and placed onto the truck.
Down-ended.
Rotated horizontal. Just call it rotated horizontal, Blue Origin.
Or break over. Broken over. I don't know. Maybe that's worse. No, that's not worse than down-ending. Down-ending is worse than that. But yeah, it's just weird.
I thought I saw a bird in the background, but I think it's just Jerry. Yeah, it's Jerry's drone. Because a bird cannot go up and down and then 90 degrees to the side.
I am not going to embrace it, Jake Egan. No, I don't really like the word. It's
no,
just
down-ending, up-ending.
No. I'm sorry. Sorry, Blue Origin, you lost me there. You have a cool-looking rocket, but you lost me there.
I'm just pausing for a moment to appreciate this big booster coming back into port here, and these awesome views brought to us by Jerry, our professional drone pilot who is flying the drone. And I will just say again that flying a drone over Port Canaveral is prohibited without prior written approval from the Canaveral Port Authority, and special permission was granted, allowing this flight to be safely conducted. And you can again see just off to the right-hand side there, Launch Complex 36 in the background at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, where this very booster launched just a few days ago on Sunday morning, and come the early hours of Wednesday afternoon, it's already almost back at the dock. Just a little ways to go before it is secured up. And it looks like we are now going in for that horizontal translation. The rotation is complete. You can see those two tugs there on the right side working hard to push Jacklyn into position as it moves sideways towards the dock. If you have any questions for us, we're staying live. We're approaching 2 o'clock in the afternoon local time, but we're still live. And tag us in chat at NASASpaceflight or at NSF. And that organizes it into a nice queue for us to bring them on the screen. You don't have to do a super chat or anything. You can just do a normal chat and we'll bring it on screen. We have Space Coast Videos asking, are there any crew on Jacklyn at touchdown? If not, when do they board after the rocket is safed? Ryan, there's definitely nobody on board when the booster is coming in for a landing. I'm not sure if we know exactly when they get back on board, but they're a safe distance away, aren't they?
Yeah, they're probably all aboard Harvey Stone, waiting for the booster to be saved, and then they'll go aboard the landing platform and do the necessary hookups and inspections and whatnot of the booster. Make sure everything's secure before hooking up Harvey Stone to the barge and landing platform and towing it back, basically.
And out in the field, alongside Dee and Jerry doing the tracking camera and the drone, Julia has also been out and snapped a picture of New Glenn when it was rotating. That's a very pretty picture. I especially like the kind of the angled perspective we get this time with the first of all with the control surfaces in the interstage and also the strakes. Nice little angled view of Jacklyn, but that straight on view of the booster, which is pretty cool. Maybe they've paused? I'm trying to see. It looks like they are moving very carefully. Carefully being a synonym for slowly. There you go. Looks like now moving sideways into the position it needs to be in to offload the booster. Let's see here. We have really Richie Roo asking, what is the coolest space thing that you've ever seen? If this, I don't know whether we should restrict this to with your own eyes or at all. Do you have anything, Ryan?
Yeah, I don't know. If it's with our own eyes up close, I'd have to say New Glenn 2 launch because it's the that was the first space launch I'd ever seen, at least the one that I remember. I saw it Atlas 3 launch like way when I was way younger. One I don't remember, but that's the first launch I saw in person. So it could be. I'd say it would be this. As for coolest thing overall I've seen, if we're talking about live streaming, I would say it's B12's Catch. If we're talking historical footage, it's the Apollo 11 moon landing. So kind of like three categories.
I didn't realize you're alive to see the coolest the Apollo 11 moon landing.
I said if we're talking about historical, like watching replays.
Yeah.
Can I jump in on this one?
Yes, you can, D.
Yeah,
I didn't know if you had a suitable connection or not, but if you are back with us, then please do.
Yeah, so watching Booster 12 land was so unexpected, and that one, there might have been more spectacular moments in some ways, but the complete surprise of watching that catch actually happen on Flight 5 was incredible, and I'm not going to forget that ever. So that has to be one of my top for sure.
Yeah, mine is a similar note. Mine would be the catch on Starship Flight 8, which I was fortunate enough to see in person. And yeah, I mean the launch is a close second. The catch just tops it a little bit though. Seeing that booster come back into the chopsticks is pretty surreal. So as New Glenn GS1 serial number 2 continues to make its way back towards the dock, we have some more pictures. You might have seen a little over an hour ago now. In the back of shot, there was a helicopter that buzzed the booster and flew past in the back of shot. The person on board that helicopter was a certain person that goes by the name of Max Evans, who has gotten some aerial images of New Glenn as she comes back into port for the second time. So we'll probably scroll through these, but some very pretty pictures from Max. The high-resolution versions of these will, of course, be going out to our members. Look at that. That's an awesome shot showing the deck there. And I am reliably informed some prints are in progress. So if you want some prints, stay tuned. We are working on them right now. Look at that. That's an awesome shot as well.
Gives you kind of a sense of scale of that, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's really hard to get a sense of scale for something this big, but yeah, especially seeing the smaller boats next to it, it's like, oh, that's a big booster. We have this question here, which is a good question because we were talking, Ryan, you were talking a little bit earlier about the thrusters that the SpaceX drone ships have. Is Jacklyn anchored or is it just floating, waiting for the booster to return? I don't know if Jacklyn has thrusters to kind of position itself on a specific, GPS coordinates like the SpaceX drone ships do. I don't know if Blue has actually said.
I don't remember. That might be a Gav thing. That one, I don't remember if it actually has it. I wouldn't be surprised if they have small thrusters on there to help maintain position. Anchoring that far out, that's a decent ways down.
Mm-hmm.
Where the the ocean floor is out there. But I can't remember if they do or not because I know all the SpaceX ones. Gav says it has thrusters. We don't know much more than that, so yeah, it makes sense. Just probably thrusters for station keeping is basically what it is.
Keeping it locked onto that specific location, so the booster knows where it is. Because it isn't very useful if the booster thinks it's in one place, and then by the time it gets to saying "Where's Jacklyn?" Like it does on the new NASASpaceflight, the Daily Hopper design, the Jacklyn has moved out of position and is in a completely different place to where it was expecting. That would not be great. As you can see there, Harvey Stone on the right-hand side has just towed Jacklyn with Glenn Stage 1 on board back into port, and Jacklyn now being pushed into position next to the dock by those tugs there, which you can see in the bottom left. Moving very, very, very slowly, being extra, extra careful with this booster. Probably the, bar the crawler transporter, this is probably the slowest moving object I've ever had to commentate on for NSF. Although I have to say, I think this is probably even slower than the crawler at this point. This is ridiculously slow.
Yeah, this is like 0.2 knots or whatever. Like,
yeah. They don't need to measure these in nautical miles per hour. They need to measure these in nautical miles per, I don't know, days.
Something like that.
Ever so gracefully, ever so slowly, making its way sideways towards the dock. And if you do have any questions for us, do tag us in chat at NASASpaceflight or at NSF. 98 Central is asking, does the booster have any lightning mitigation? Hopefully not the pushers. Yeah, I don't think so. I think it would be rather unrealistic to build some giant lightning towers on the drone ships, both for New Glenn and Falcon 9. I think the safest assumption there would be that they wouldn't launch if there's a lightning storm, so there probably wouldn't be a lightning concern unless, something brewed in the 3 days or so it takes to get back to port.
You just avoid storms on the way back, basically. That's
Yeah.
your best option. Or try to avoid them as considering how fast you can go.
Yeah. There you go. Just a bit of perspective on how much the distance has closed. Nearly there. We've got about a Jacklyn's width left to go. But yeah, they are being really, 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 really extra super duper careful. And it's a great view there. You can also see the little robot that comes in and attaches itself to the quick disconnect port on the aft module of the booster there. SpaceX has the Octograbber. Blue Origin has the little vacuum cleaner looking thing. Almost looks like an elephant.
A little bit.
You can also see there a nice view of the TPS as it glints in the Floridian sunlight. I know this is a little bit Marmite, you love it or you hate it. And before the New Glenn launched for the first time, I was like, hang on, what are you doing, Blue? Why have you not painted your TPS? But it's actually seeing it on camera, and it's not in a render, like it's an actual real thing reacting with real light. I'm very happy that they didn't paint that TPS and that they've just left it exposed, because it is very, very cool, especially when it has sunlight on it.
Yeah, I remember when they said they weren't going to paint it, and we were all like, "Oh man, that's going to look a little weird." No, it's grown on me. I actually prefer it this way.
Hmm.
I think it looks a lot better on the booster after seeing it in person, seeing it fly 3 times. Yeah, the unpainted TPS looks better. It also means it's less repaint you have to repaint, and a little bit less weight. It is less weight on the booster, so you see it kind of shimmer a little bit, kind of.
Just there.
Yeah.
Whoa.
When the light hits it just right. I
Yeah.
I do like it. I do like the exposed TPS. It was a choice they made, and I'm glad they made it at this rate.
Yeah, same here. Same here. I also like, you can see on the leading edge and the trailing edge of the strakes, the extra kind of reinforced part of the TPS, very reminiscent of the leading edge of the space shuttle wings, with the grey part that kind of curves over the edge there. Obviously, a slightly different scale, but still cool to see. I can't remember what Blue Origin said, but they measured the amount of lift that the booster produces in like the amount of lift that F-18s produce or something ridiculous like that. This company, markets their entire space strategy around reaching the Kármán line, which is famously 100 kilometers, and yet they will literally do anything but measure in metric. They put feet and miles per hour on the stream. They measure in the amount of trucks they can take to space, the amount of F-18s, the amounts of lift that the booster produces, anything but using the metric system. You can also see the reaction control system thrusters there very clearly on the interstage, which is pretty cool. And speaking of things which are pretty cool, we have a couple pretty cool photos for you, which are now available at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. I said a moment ago that Max had been up in the helicopter, and he's got a couple shots in the store now, a couple prints. There we go. Maybe, yep. There we go. Right button, Jake Egan. Well done. As we move the drone there. But let's look at the prints. We have this wide one from Max as it approached the entrance to port there out in the Atlantic. Very cool. Very pretty coloured sea. A colour I am not very familiar with, but there you go. Turquoise sea. Let's take a look at the other one. This close-up. Oh, this is the one I really liked, because you can see the deck of Jacklyn very scorched from the BE4 burning it over 2 flights now. But yeah, overhead view of Jacklyn and the booster as it comes back into port. Available now at shop.nasaspaceflight.com on metal prints and paper prints, depending whichever format you prefer. And we have many other prints as well on the shop as well. Jay, if you could just scroll back, sorry for backseat producing, but if you could just scroll back up, that print that Max got from the New Glenn, Northrop Grumman 24 launch, the there and back again. Yeah, that's the shot. The middle one. Yeah, click on that one. I have to say, this is I think this is one of my favourite shots that are on the shop right now. Composite from the same, of course, this is not one photo, this is a composite of 2 photos, but it's the same camera taken at the same place. All remote cameras here, right next to the landing zone, and that's really cool. You can see the booster launching on the left and landing on the right. Shop.nasaspaceflight.com. There you go. In the meantime, Jacklyn still very slowly moving back towards the dock. I mean, I feel like I'm going to be saying that for the next 3 hours at this rate.
Slowly but surely.
Here is the evidence that it is moving. But you have to zoom in quite far to get the evidence that it is moving. We have a question here from Dougal, who's asking, will the boosters get renamed at every relaunch, even if they are the same ones? I don't think so. This booster is called Never Tell Me the Odds, Ryan, and that's the same name it's had throughout. So I'd hope they stick with the same names for each booster.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how far this naming goes, depending on how many boosters they make and all the names that they're given. It's definitely a new thing to be naming the boosters and not like naming ships or crewed vehicles. It's definitely a new one. But at least they put the name on the booster, unlike SpaceX, who couldn't be bothered to put a booster decal on their Starship Super Heavy boosters. So.
And even for that, the Falcon 9 boosters, they do put the number on them, but it's so small that it's literally, you can't, unless you have a super duper zoom telephoto lens, you can't see it. It's so tiny, especially when the soot builds up. It's so tiny and so far in the distance. Like, you need super zoom to be able to see it. But at least they do put a number of some sorts on Falcon 9 boosters. And credit where credit is due, Rocket Lab, they do a fun name for every single Electron, and they've launched that, like, what, 70, 80 times now? I think we'll have fun booster names in plenty of them.
Yeah, Rocket Lab is quietly approaching, like, it's getting there to 100 launches. It's kind of like, you don't think about it, but it actually has launched a lot. The more I just thought about that, I was like, they've actually launched a lot.
Yeah. And that's extra impressive considering that just a couple years ago, they were celebrating their 50th launch.
Yeah.
And they first flew in 2017, so they've kind of done that hockey stick of increasing cadence.
That's a good one, Jay. The back channel.
Oh, I'm gonna leak this. Jay Keegan, producer, says that the 100th Electron should be called Running Out of Names.
That's a genius one, honestly.
I can't remember which one they did, but they have done a similar name like that before. Let me have a look. Was it Running Out? Me typing on nextspaceflight.com. It was Running Out of Toes in 2021 for their 20th flight of Electron. Did they do Running Out of Fingers as well? No, but they did do Running Out of Toes.
I wonder who comes up with those names for every single one. And I'm kind of curious what other names Blue Origin will come up with, but yeah.
I'm not, like, don't quote me on this, but I have heard that there is like a local school in New Zealand where they get the fun names from. It's like an outreach thing.
That makes sense.
Which, is cool outreach and saves them a job of having to come up with a name for every new mission. You just ask the schools to come up with some fun names. Almost back. Again, taking it very carefully, very slowly. But it is moving. When we zoom in, you can see it is moving.
Very, very slowly.
We have a question from Gwen Ever. They are asking, is there a Starship update video this week? There is. It should be coming out today. As you can imagine, with new Glenn, it's been a little bit busy, but we have managed to get another one of those done. So that should be coming out soon, later on today, with all of the latest updates from Starbase, and of course that bombshell announcement from SpaceX about just read the instructions, being retired from Falcon 9 service for booster transport. The reason I said Disney is because I saw the Disney fantasy in the background, and that is on the brain. Although I am somewhat surprised to only see one cruise ship in the background. Considering this is a new Glenn, I would have thought they would have all come out in force to block our views. Thankfully not this time around. Maybe considering the timing. There we go. That's a 57.5 meter tall booster, by the way, just in case you were wondering. Just casually being sailed back into port.
Just there.
Just sitting there like it's nobody's business. It's only been to space and back twice. No big deal. Domingo Flav in chat says, when office chair pin? I will forward that onto the store team. If we can get a VAB office chair pin.
The chair.
ODB is asking any news about the second stage. Ryan, for those people just joining us in the last few minutes here, as new Glenn GS1 SN2 returns to port, could you just give us a little brief update on what has happened with this mission? Because some people might have just seen, oh, it failed, but the booster worked. So did it fail? Like, what's going on with Bluebird 7?
So basically, during the second stage burn, the second burn of the second stage, I should say, there was some kind of failure, I think, with one of the at this rate with one of the engines. It didn't produce enough thrust, or other things happened basically. So the second stage failed to get Bluebird 7 into the correct orbit. So because of that, it got it into too much of a lower orbit, so the satellite couldn't correct for itself, which means the second stage plus the satellite re-entered, which caused a mission failure. And you can say early data suggests that our second GS2 burn, which is their second stage, one of the BE3 engines didn't produce sufficient thrust to reach their target orbit. And with that, there's an anomaly investigation with FAA oversight, which is a normal thing. It's a mishap investigation. SpaceX has done them. Blue's even done them before with New Shepard, when New Shepard had that launch abort. Where the abort system worked like a charm and the booster had an issue. That was an FAA. That was a Blue Origin-led FAA mishap investigation. So if they can get a safety exemption for this, which I kind of doubt they will be able to, because it didn't re-enter where it needed to, where it should have, or at least in the hazard zones, then they will need to finish the investigation and get the sign-off from the FAA before being able to fly again. So that's kind of where they are. They did land the booster. They did get it back. But I would say for Blue Origin, it's a Pyrrhic victory. While it is a big accomplishment, the mission was a failure. So they'll pick themselves up. They'll figure out what happened, and they'll fix it, and they'll move on. They just got to do an investigation on it. It happens. You have failures. Falcon 9's had them. The only rocket that technically hasn't had him is Atlas V, but it nearly did. The satellite was able to recover itself. I forget which mission that was, but it nearly had a failure, but it ended up not having it because the satellite was able to recover its orbit. So almost every rocket's had an issue in its lifespan. It happens. So it just stinks it's on the third flight.
Indeed. And, sometimes I see a little bit of a misconception in chat, and they're like, why does the FAA do an investigation? What does the FAA know about New Glenn? What does the FAA know about Starship? What does the FAA know about Falcon 9? These investigations are led by the space companies themselves. They're just required by the FAA. So, the Blue Origin will do this investigation. Even if the FAA didn't ask for an investigation, they still do an investigation because they want to know why their rocket didn't work. So they do this investigation and then present their findings to the FAA and say, hey, this is what we found. This is what we think went wrong. This is how we fixed it. And then the FAA goes, sounds good, stamps it, sends them off on their merry way to fly more flights, which is essentially how it works. It's a little bit more formal than that, but it's essentially how it works. Observer back in chat, this time with a $10 super chat. Thank you for your support, asking if there'll be a flame trench this Friday. I'm happy to report there will be. Flame trench returns this Friday. We didn't have one last week because of all the things going on with the AIAA Design Build Fly competition. which EJ and Jerry and Gage were out supporting in Kansas, which was very fun. If you haven't seen those streams, then we've got about 30 hours worth of live stream for you to watch. So plenty of watching if you want to catch up and see some university teams fly and sometimes not fly. Sometimes nosedive some remote-controlled airplanes. So that's a very fun project to work on. But Flame Trench is back this Friday, and it's a double header this Friday because as well as Flame Trench, we have an Intrepid Astro Live show coming up as well from New York City. So two very fun things to watch out for on Friday night. And we'll, of course, have This Week in Spaceflight coming up as well at the end of the week with all of the latest on the week's space news. Matthew has a great suggestion for another booster name, Booster McBoosterface. And Claudio is asking or saying that it seems that new Glenn is much more clean than Falcon 9. No charring is visible on the booster. Any idea why? Right, this is because of the propellant it uses, right? This is because methane, unlike kerosene, doesn't produce that soot which gets deposited on the booster during the entry and the landing.
Yeah, so with Falcon 9, for those who know or those don't know, I guess, it's a Carolox rocket, Carolox engine. So that's kerosene and liquid oxygen. Kerosene, basically, it's RP1 or it's a very highly refined gasoline diesel. Really, is what it's more is than gasoline. But like jet fuel, basically, but just even more refined than that. Basically, when you for anyone who doesn't know, when you burn a carbon-based, like high carbon-based fuel like that, you're gonna get deposits and you're gonna get and whatnot. For anyone who's seen what a car exhaust looks like, what the exhaust inside of an internal combustion engine looks like, what the exhaust out of a jet engine looks like, you get deposits and whatnot. And it's a very, very a fuel-rich exhaust that comes out of the open cycle preburner. So the preburner on the Merlin engine is an open cycle and whatnot, and the preburner exhaust is just dumped overboard. And when it does that, that's just kind of dumped overboard. And when they go to re-enter during the re-entry burn and the landing burn, that dumped over exhaust just comes right back up on the vehicle, and all that soot from the burned kerosene just sticks to the vehicle. That's basically what it does. It just sticks to the vehicle and makes it look all dirty and everything. In theory, they could clean it off, but I will tell you, cleaning off soot is not simplistic. It's a pain to do, so they just don't really care. Plus, I think it kind of looks cool. And for BE4 and for Raptor, which use Methalox, and for other vehicles that will end up using Methalox, it burns much cleaner. It's a much cleaner burn, and especially with a closed cycle engine and a full flow staged combustion cycle engine, their combustion byproducts are a lot less because it's all just the exhaust of the rocket. There's no pre-burner exhaust. That pre-burner exhaust is routed back into the engine itself because it's a closed cycle engine. So it burns cleaner, it's routed back in, and it's a much more pure burn. So that's why you don't see any combustion byproducts on the side of the rocket. So that's why. And
Cleaning all that soot up. Oh, go on.
I was gonna say, and it's got thermal protection on it too, which helps, against the heat of reentry. I meant to first mention that too. So.
Yeah, cleaning the soot off a Falcon 9 is really, the payoff isn't really there because it would take them a long time to clean it, and it wouldn't really save them much in terms of mass. So it's not really a penalty, or it's a negligible penalty. It's basically zero. Of course, it isn't zero, but it's basically zero. So it's not really worth that time and effort and money to clean a booster when you don't have to. Luckily, New Glenn doesn't really need a clean at all. It's very clean on the drone ship right now. I can't tell, but I think they're basically at the dock now.
Yeah.
It's hard to say because Jacklyn is so wide. um, Again, the scales of these things you can see compared to the pickup trucks. This is huge, and those pickup trucks in themselves are quite big. So maybe a little gap. Although that tug's engine is still running, so just have to wait and see. G Chazy, sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. They are asking, since New Glenn keeps having to make these large corrections before landing and touchdown, are they having to keep a lot of extra fuel residuals on board and not getting efficiency out of the launch? That's a great question. I mean, if they are using fuel to do the landing, of course that's going to put a payload penalty on for launch. The same as if you were doing an expendable launch. You're going to be able to launch more stuff into space because you don't have to save fuel for a landing. Blue Origin have said they want to make this more efficient, but for these early landings, Ryan, this is how they've always done it with New Shepard. They've kind of just applied that to New Glenn at an entirely different scale. As I was saying, New Shepard would fit inside the New Glenn fairing. So it's a bit alien because we haven't seen this before. Falcon 9 does that hover slam, as they call it, because they don't want to call it a suicide burn. So yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they refine it down the line. After they fly more and more, they'll refine the landing, they'll refine the ascent, they'll refine everything to get more and more performance out of it. Because the more performance they get out of the booster, and especially the second stage, the more Amazon Leo sats they can put per stack if they can figure that out. And at that point, they're only limited. They would only be limited to payload volume. Which they have a decent amount of payload volume with the size of the payload fairing in this thing. But I think a lot of it has to do with it's still early in the program. They're probably targeting a little bit away from this drone ship in case there's a failure, and they'll refine the landing burn later down the line. That's my guess, anyways.
Again, this is only the second time Blue has done this. This is the second time they've landed a booster of this scale. There's plenty of time, plenty of missions coming up where they can refine and get more efficient and maybe shave some mass off as well as they continually develop the BE4 engine. Because that engine is going to get upgraded. I mean, Blue has said that engine is going to get upgraded, especially as we move towards New Glenn 9x4. They need that engine to be much more powerful than it is right now. And it's already pretty powerful, so that's going to be pretty cool to see. We have a question here from... Forgive me, I have no idea how I'm meant to pronounce your name. Do forgive me, but they are asking, will we see the crane lift the booster off the barge anytime soon? I'd imagine probably over the next 48 hours. There isn't really a schedule, but fingers crossed sometime soon. Definitely before the end of the week. But good thing we have 24 cameras for 24 cameras? We have 24/7 cameras for that, is what I meant to say.
I think they have to go up there with the lift and hand push down all the pushers, and then they get the cap on. I think is what they have to do. I'm pretty sure that's what they had to do the first time around. So if they put the pushers down, they have to get the cap installed, hook the main crane up. They have to detach it from the barge, get the landing legs up, and then get it into the jig over there. So it'll take a little bit. I think Pizza said at some point it took like 60 hours last time around. So they may go a little bit quicker this time, but we'll see. So it's almost 3 days, 2.5 days basically.
And you can see there on the right, that's what they will use to perform that down ending, as Blue calls it. Big crane, big jig, big breakover fixture, as they call it.
Mm-hmm. With the transporter right there. Basically, they'll lower it in, and then they'll hook it into the transporter, and then I think they roll that transporter out a little bit, and then hook the aft side into the transporter, and then roll it away.
Hmm.
I think it's how they do it. I'm trying to remember though.
It's a rather complex procedure because this is a big, I guess, it's a kind of obvious, but it's a big booster. So they need to be really careful lifting this thing into place because, they put the aft end on the breakover fixture, they break it over, they attach the forward end to the truck, and it's like, hang on a minute, we're still attached to the breakover fixture at the other end. So they then need to detach that end of the breakover fixture and then put it on the truck while still keeping it lifted because
Yeah.
it's not fully on the truck yet. It's a really complex operation. Definitely looks like it has made it into dock at this point. And Harvey Stone has parked up as well. You can see there on the right side. Probably going to be a little whiles until we see this this ship used again for a landing, especially considering the investigation that is ongoing into the failure of the second stage with the unexpected amount of thrust. Although those tugs are still producing thrust, as you can see there on the left. Maybe they're still securing Jacklyn to the dock. See some people walking around on the ground as well. Humans for scale compared to New Glenn. Really, really cool. I, for one, hope we get to see this many, many more times in the future, and it just becomes as regular as Falcon 9s in and out of Port Canaveral on a much, much bigger scale. much, much more
Yeah.
volume in a New Glenn booster than a Falcon 9 booster. It might only be 15 meters taller, but it's double the diameter, and that adds a lot of volume. Jerry Pike, of course, piloting the drone, I should say, right now, giving us these awesome shots. And I will just say again that flying a drone over Port Canaveral is prohibited without prior written approval from the Canaveral Port Authority. Special permission has been granted, allowing this flight to be safely conducted. And it's a very pretty flight at that as well. So as we just cross 2:30 in the afternoon local time, Jacklyn is home to her home port of Port Canaveral in Florida. Never Tell Me the Odds is back in Port Canaveral and will be lifted off over the next 2-3 days or so. That is something you can watch live on Space Coast Live 24/7, which is where we have our round-the-clock live views of the Kennedy Space Center, Cape Canaveral, and Port Canaveral, of course. This is the OG Fleet Cam, watching on, as it has done for many years at this point, seen many a Falcon 9 booster come in, and now for the second time, has seen Glenn Stage 1, serial number 2, and Never Tell Me the Odds return to Port Canaveral following a unsuccessful flight for the second stage, but still a successful flight for the first stage. And with that, Ryan, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. It's been wonderful to see this booster come back home.
Indeed, it has. And I'll say good luck to Blue, to figure out what went wrong. They'll be back to flying before we know it. Can't wait to see this particular booster fly again if they end up flying it again, which I don't see why they wouldn't.
In the field, providing us live feeds from the side of the water, DYs with the long zoom tracking. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Of course, it's been an absolute pleasure, and it has been a truly beautiful afternoon and a great day to watch another orbital rocket return to Port Canaveral.
Awesome indeed. Also in the field, we had Jerry Pike piloting the drone, Max Evans not piloting the helicopter, but a passenger in the helicopter, getting us some wonderful pictures from the air. which are now in the shop, and Julia, who is also out getting some pictures, which are on social media. Make sure you go and follow all the socials, like all the pictures, do all the things. We'll be back later on with even more rocket business to talk about here on NSF, but for now, I've been Ryan Caton. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
And here we go.
There's the deluge. Here's ignition.
Roger, roll, Atlantic. Throttling up.
Did it just do a Kerbal?
Back to the moon and beyond.
Put that in the big bag, Jingle.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, that sure looks like a perfect world.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
We did have an observation. 343 unfolds to go.
It's orange.
Water towers can fly!
Bingo! Right in the center.
Where's Jacklyn? There it is!
That was surreal.
That's not what we want to see.
No!
Oh my god.
Yikes, you bet. We don't need any more of these.